Hello and welcome to Waylander's Wandering. And after completing the Raven Guard Assault Intercessor for the last video, I thought I might as well have a go at a true black armour, or a straight up black armour rather than the drab of the Raven Guard. So with that in mind, this fella is going to be a Black Templar. As with all the other models in this series, it's been based with a colour-forged standard grey with a dry brush of white over the top. And to get his black armour, we're going to be using Citadel Contrast Black Legion. I realise Citadel also have a paint called Black Templar, but it is it is more on off black. It doesn't have the coverage of this one, so we will come in with a heavily loaded brush and come in straight down onto the greave and boot there. Fill everything in, working down, and where the paint wants to pool itself and pull it down, we will just wick that away and move it to another part of the greave. This is kind of the secret to contrast paints, by the way. Put it on heavily, like so. And then as the paint moves down the model, bring your brush in to the places where it's pooling excessively, wick it back up and move it to where you want the paint to be. This can be done until the paint begins to dry a little, at which point we stop doing that, because then you risk tearing the dried or the semi-dried surface, which is an awful lot of work to fix, so we don't want to do that. Anyway, loaded brush onto the greave, slosh it about, as they say, and where it's pooling a little much, like so, wick it back up, move it to a different area. I will do this for the rest of our Marine, and also off camera I will fill in the bits that are going to be metallic with Mechanica Standard Grey, and the bits that are going to be not metallic and not black, so pretty much the belts and things, and his pauldrons with a white to give me a nice keying basis for those areas. Now, as I said, I will carry on with this and bring you chaps back after the cut. We're all about black on now, and the white and Mechanica Standard Grey. I have to say that certain areas, such as up in there behind the holster, up in the thigh area, it's an absolute nightmare to get a brush into. I mean, normally I'm a big fan of, if I can't get a brush in there, you probably can't see it, so I don't need to paint that bit, but goodness me, that was a sod to get done. Anyway, that's all the white and Mechanica Standard Grey bits done now. So what I'm going to go and do is the expansion joints behind the knees and other places. I will be going over with Vallejo Black Lotus, which is a less opaque black than the Black Legion. So that should give us some feel of a differentiation there, and that kind of thing. I will be doing weapon casings, shoulder pad trims sort of on the pauldrons, around the trim around the pauldron here and here, with Vallejo Velvet Red. I was going to use like the Blood Angels Red, but I feel that this more tending towards Burgundy Red will give a better finish. And of course, because the pauldron plates themselves are going to be white, I will be going through with Citadel Contrast Apothecary White. So we will actually start with the Apothecary White, and using a slightly larger brush than I've been using for the other bit, what we will do is get a big old brush full of the Apothecary White starting from the top of the shoulder pad, coming around the rim and drawing down. Same all over. And drawing the paint out as much as possible, so not leaving any pooling, but getting plenty into those sort of recessed edges so that we get a highlight and shade effect. We're on this shoulder, we'll draw it down some more and use our brush to wick up any excess and transfer it to the opposite shoulder where there is a little less on there. Now, using a clean but moist brush, we will now bring off most of the surface area stuff to leave a relatively clean finish and just shade in the lower areas. This of course needs to be done very quickly because, as I mentioned before, where contrast paints dry and tear the surfaces they're drying, you leave a horrible effect. And that should leave like that, which will leave an area that's clean enough to add the decals to later. While we wait for that to dry, we will take our smaller brush again, get a couple of drops of velvet red, and start with the weapons casings. So I will do all of this, and once it's had a minute or two to dry, I will bring you guys back in. With all the velvet red areas done and the undersuit places done with the Black Lotus, I've also gone over the pouches and holsters with Citadel Contrast Gore Grunter fur and the chest eagle and whatever that thing is supposed to be on his wrist, and the ribbon on his Purity Seal there with a Skeleton Horde, and the wax on there with Made Just Purple. He says, quickly checking. All that remains now to bring this to almost a tabletop ready standard would be the metallic areas, which is essentially all those areas that are still Mechanicus standard grey, for which I will be using Citadel Ironbreaker, and then I will fill in his eyes, which I will put a dot of white paint in there and then fill it with Tesseract Glow just to give it that finish. So I will start off with all this metalwork, and because we're being very careful now, because you know we're so close to finishing, this is going to take an extra minute or two, but with practice you can still do it relatively fast. As you see, I'm using the metallic paint straight from the pot. Which honestly you shouldn't do. I mean, you should definitely thin this stuff down with a bit of water or lamy and medium or whatever you have into some sort of flow improver. But I want to get it done a little bit quicker. And it's still runny enough, so you know, we do what we do. So I will carry on with all of this metallic work, and the eye sockets on the helmet there, and bring you guys in for the very final stages. Now that everything's had a time to dry, the final stage is, and to be quite honest, if you're happy with your Marine when he gets to this stage, base him up to match the rest of your army, stick him on a table, and away you go. I, of course, as usual, are going to put some decals on his pauldrons there to indicate the Black Templars chapter and the fact that he's an assault intercessor. And I will probably also go around and edge highlight the black armour with some Citadel Dawnstone. To do this, I will be using some ever so slightly thinned Dawnstone, maybe 2 brushes of paint to a brush full of water. Basically, what we want is the paint to be able to draw a nice line, like so. So, taking a reasonably loaded brush, not too much, and coming with the very edge of the brush along a raised area like so, we will allow the weight of the brush to just touch the miniature and draw the paint out. So that's around a sort of a 45-degree angle and just touching the raised edge. Let the brush do the work and come along, leaving a very thin line of the Dawnstone, which will be our edge highlight. Now if we do this along sort of the upper edges of all our armour panels, and things like the collar around here and belt buckle and such, this will leave us with a nice edge highlight all along. But where we come to areas where we can't get our brush in to do that, along the sort of edge, we're using the very tip of the brush and elbows on your desk, hands together to form a good brace, a triangle. Just using the very tip of the brush, come along and around. Really helps if you've got some paint on your brush to do that. Right, using the very edge of your brush, come along and around, very thin line. And if we need to do this side, we can't reach, move the miniature rather than your hands, and continue the rest of the line. So for raised edges, that is the side of the brush and allowing the weight of the brush to pull it, just come along the edges like so. For those bits where we can't do that, such as say the toe of this boot, elbows brace on the table, hands together, and just very gently with the tip of the brush draw a line like so. So I will go around the rest of the miniature and fill in these edge highlights, and I will probably do some Baylor brown on the leather work, and maybe even some Evil Sun Scarlet on the red areas. But for me, this is a less is more technique, so not everywhere we'll be getting an edge highlight. I realise that many of the sort of Citadel actual Games Workshop Warhammer channel painting guides do tend to edge highlight absolutely everything. I personally find that a little bit much, but if that's what you choose to do with your miniatures, go for your life. Anyway, I will carry on with this, and I will come back to you after I've done this and put the decals on. And here we have our completed Black Legion Assault Intercessor. I think that with a paint scheme this simple and this effective, you could probably do something like the full Leviathan box in around a week of evenings. So if you picked it up and you've put it together, I would say Monday to Friday of evenings, maybe 4 hours a night, you could paint all of your Marines in the box as Black Legion if you so chose. I think that this is an effective paint scheme. The Black Legion contrast paint is covered particularly well and is giving us a very nice solid black. I like the shoulder pads there, and the weapon casing, they pick up very well. The odd splashes of colour there, so the bone on the chest eagle and that weird dagger thing on his wrist work well, as does the brown of the leathers, and of course the red weapons casings to make him stand out that little bit. I hope you found the tutorial interesting and any of the techniques I've shown useful. If there are things that I've done in this video that I haven't actually shown how I did them in this video, such as the basing and applying the decals, etc., they are in other videos in my Skills to Scale series, and most undoubtedly in this series of Space Marine paint jobs that I've done to coincide with the launch of Warhammer 2010th edition. As for the decals, if I like decals, and because I have access to them, I've used them. If you don't have access to decals, my friend Kev from the Hobby Corner has a planned series that he may have started by now, where he's going to tutorialize how to freehand these kinds of things, or the Space Marine heraldry, etc. So hit him up. I'll leave a link in the pinned comments down below. If I forget, leave me a comment to remind me. And if Kev forgets to actually do the Space Marine chapter of your choice, nag him. He likes to be nagged. Yeah, all the paints and other materials, including our Assault Intercessor there, are available from Mighty Lancer Games in Bridlington, where it's my preferred friendly local gaming store, who I have an affiliate link with. There's a QR code on screen you can use, or the link in the description down below. It will take you there. You get up to 20% off all of your purchases there, whether it be Games Workshop or any other, thing. And they will give me a small kickback for sending them a new customer. So all three of us win there. You get 20% off, I get a little kickback, they get a new customer. Everything's absolutely fantastic. If you do enjoy my work there, I would appreciate likes, shares, and comments, subscriptions, and all the other usual YouTube stuff, because engagement really helped the channel. In fact, weirdly, I believe that engagement actually helps the channel more than watching the videos, which is just super weird, but hey, that's YouTube for you. If you'd like to help beyond the like, shares and subscribes, I've got Patreon and Ko-fi, where you can make either a one-off donation or a regular monthly donation to me. You don't have to, of course. I am more than happy, and it always makes me happy to see a new subscriber or a new like on a video. So, don't feel that you're forced to contribute at all. I mean, if you don't like my stuff, leave a dislike. Everything's groovy, baby. Anyway, that's enough for me. I've been Waylander. You've been amazing. I love all your faces, and goodbye.